When I first started out with photography all those years ago, I remember thinking to myself, there is so much gear that I need to go out and capture great photos. I felt like I needed all these different things to get the photos that I wanted, but in reality, there's only a few things that you actually need when you're just starting out in photography, and these are things that you're gonna have from day one when you're starting out your photography journey, all the way until you're a pro or you're advanced as well. These are things that you're gonna keep with yourself your entire career. So in this video, I wanna talk about some things that you actually do need when you're starting out as a photographer and some of the things that you don't need as well. And before we jump into it, I'm giving away a free gear guide. This has all the gear that I use and recommend, as well as a buying guide for 3 different price points. So if you're looking for your next camera or you want to see some of the things that I recommend in this video, you can download that via the link in the description, and I hope you guys enjoy. Now I want to start off with talking about cameras and lenses, and I don't want to spend too much time on this because this video isn't specifically about cameras and lenses, but I do think it's important to talk about. So I think there's a few simple guidelines that you can follow when you're picking up your very first camera. And the most important thing is picking up a camera with interchangeable lenses. So this camera here is my Fuji X100 VI, and this is an incredible little camera. You might have heard about it online, but it doesn't have interchangeable lenses. And for my personal life, I love this camera, but when you're just starting out with photography, having a camera where you can change that lens and get different looks in your images, in my opinion, is super important because it teaches you how focal length is going to impact the outcome of your photo. And it gives you a lot more options for upgrading later on. And in my opinion, they're just better cameras to learn on. So I would highly recommend picking up any cheap DSLR or mirrorless camera. APS-C cameras or crop sensor cameras are perfectly fine when you're just starting out. And I think most of us started on a smaller sensor camera like that. So you don't need to go out and spend a bunch of money on a full frame camera when you're just starting out. But in terms of lenses, I think it's really important that you have 2 lenses when you're first starting out. And the first one is a zoom lens. Now, when you pick up your first camera, typically you're gonna get that kit lens that comes with it. That's okay. If you can upgrade to a slightly better zoom lens, I think that's totally fine. And the second lens is going to be a 50mm f1.8 prime lens. And the reason why I recommend both of these lenses is because with the zoom lens, you're gonna get a really good feel for focal length and how it affects the look of your image. And with that prime lens, you're gonna be able to experiment a lot more with a wider maximum aperture at f1.8. So I think having these 2 lenses is really gonna let you experiment with a lot of different aspects of the camera and photography process. And this is what I would personally recommend if you are looking to buy a camera. Now, in terms of specific camera recommendations, I'm not going to talk about that here, but I do give specific recommendations in my gear guide. So once again, check that out if you haven't already. But cameras aside, one of the best investments that we can make in ourselves as photographers is investing in a good bag. Now, I have a variety of different bags that I use in different scenarios. The one that I use pretty much on a daily basis is my Wotancraft Pilot 10-liter bag. I absolutely love this thing. It's small enough to carry with me pretty much everywhere I go. I can put several cameras in there. I can put my laptop in there. It just looks good. It works, and I'm a big fan of little sling bags like this. Now, for bigger adventure photography trips that I go on, I carry either my Shimoda Explore 35-liter backpack, an incredible backpack, and recently I also picked up the Nanook NPVD camera backpack as well. Now, those are much more robust. They're gonna hold a lot more gear. And for a photographer that's just starting out, I really don't think that you need a backpack in particular. Sling bags are very accessible. They hold plenty of gear, and they're just easier to lug around as well. Now, the other bag that I carry with me pretty often, pretty much on a daily basis as well, is just this long weekend sling bag. Now, this only holds 1 camera and some film, or a couple accessories. This is kind of like my everyday carry bag, and it doesn't have a whole lot of protection, but I'm not slamming it on the floor or anything like that. But I would highly recommend picking up a sling bag. And if you are looking for specific brands, Lowepro is a great place to start. They're affordable, they look great, and they do protect your gear, which is ultimately the most important thing. Now, next up on the list is Apple AirTags. These things are incredible. I have them in every single one of my bags, especially when I'm traveling. And these things just make it easy to keep track of your gear. If you're flying and you want to make sure that your bag gets to your destination, or even when you're out and about, you can throw this in your backpack. And if it does get stolen, hopefully it doesn't, you have a little bit more recourse as to getting that product back. So these are cheap. They're amazing. I have them in all of my bags. And a little hack for you, if you're not sure where to put it, usually I'll just throw it into one of my bags, but you can also put it between 2 camera covers. So one of the things that I like to do, this is from my Konica camera. I have the front lens cover for the body, as well as the lens cover for the back of the lens. You just put it in there and you have your AirTag in a nice little convenient place. You can just throw this in your bag and you have an idea of where it is, and it's a little bit more disguised. So AirTags are awesome and I highly recommend picking some up. Now, of course, we have to talk about camera straps as well. And I think there's only really one camera strap on the market that completely takes the cake. You might have heard of this before, but it is the Peak Design camera straps. They are absolutely incredible. I have several of them. Now, this is my main one. It's kind of my big bulky one that I take with me on most of my photography trips. I use this on my Sony cameras. And what makes these straps so great is the quick release system here. All you have to do is put the little quick release tabs on your camera. I have them on all of my cameras, so I can easily just pop this off, put this on my other camera, and it just makes it a lot easier. The other one that I use a lot, especially for street photography, is just the wrist strap. I can pop this off, pop this on, and my camera is nice and protected, and they are super, super strong. Now, there are a ton of different straps that you can get online. You don't necessarily need these Peak Design straps, but they do make my life a lot easier. Now, for my film cameras and my Fuji cameras and my pretty cameras like this, I just use a cheap rope strap on Amazon. You want to make sure that if you are using a camera like this, you're not using a strap like the Peak Design, because it's going to clatter around and it might scratch your camera. But having this with this little leather piece inside protects your camera, and it just looks cool. I don't need a huge strap for a camera like this. It's light, it's easy, and I just want it to look cool. So those are the straps that I would personally recommend, but make sure you are picking up a strap and not the strap that comes with your camera, because they just aren't very great. Now, next on this list is storage, and there's a few different things that you need when it comes to storage. And if there's one thing on this list that you guys take away from this video, it's this. Storage is incredibly important for us as photographers, and I've gone out on some of the most amazing shoots of my life. I hiked the Great Wall of China by myself back in 2017, 2016, and I lost all of the photos. It was the abandoned section. It was absolutely stunning, but I didn't have a good storage system in place, and I lost those images, and I'm still heartbroken to this day. So we really need to make sure that we're paying attention to our storage when we're starting out as photographers. And the first step of that is, of course, SD cards. You don't need anything crazy. 32 gigabytes might be enough when you're starting out, but I'd recommend 64 or 128 gigabytes. You can store a lot of images on those. You can store a lot of videos. Now, the ones that I particularly use these days are the Sony Tough cards. These are pretty fast, and that allows me to shoot high bitrate video. But for a long time, I used the Lexar cards as well, and I never had an issue with these cards. The 128 gigabyte versions are pretty affordable, and they've worked for me. So I'd recommend either one of these. The SanDisk cards are good as well. Just pick up something that's going to hold all of the data, and make sure you have several just in case one fails or you're out shooting and it fills up. Having a second SD card so you can still keep shooting that day is very, very important. Now, I also would recommend picking up a card wallet for your SD cards if you do have several. This is just a cheap one that I got on Amazon, I think. And as you can see, I can store all of my SD cards in here, as well as my micro SD cards for my drones as well. So just a really great way to protect your SD cards. Keep them all in one place. Otherwise, they're going to be falling around in your bag and you might lose some of them, which is never fun. So definitely recommend a card wallet as well. But SD cards are just the first step in our storage process, right? We have those photos, we come home, we need to back them up somewhere. Now, step number 2 is making sure that you have a good hard drive to back up those photos on. You're never going to be editing photos directly off your SD card. Always upload them onto your computer, onto a hard drive, and then edit off of these. Now, there are 2 that I personally recommend. These things are amazing. This is the LaCie 5 terabyte hard drive. It's fantastic. It's durable, holds a ton of data, and I keep one of these for every single year that I shoot. So this one is 2022, as you can see, and then I back this up onto the cloud as well. Now, the other one that I recommend is the Samsung T7 Shield. This is 4 terabytes, and I edit all of my active projects on these before I move them onto the 5 terabyte hard drives. And these things are absolutely essential. If you guys do want to see a detailed breakdown of how I import, store, organize, and back up all of my photos, please let me know down below in the comments. This is something that was really hard for me to wrap my head around when I was starting out as a photographer, but it is super, super important. But I would definitely recommend picking up a larger storage hard drive like 4 terabytes or 5 terabytes, especially if you are going to get into video, which many photographers are these days. And speaking of video, if this is something that you do want to pursue, another essential resource is the sponsor of today's video, Motion Array. Now, there is a lot that goes into making videos, whether it's for YouTube or for clientele. From finding finding music for your videos to sourcing clips that you missed while you were out shooting to title screens, transitions, LUTs, sound effects, the list goes on. Now, sourcing all of these things for each video would be an absolute nightmare without Motion Array, as they offer unlimited creative downloads for an affordable monthly subscription. Whether you're after LUTs to color grade your videos, royalty-free music, stock photos and videos, or sound effects to help spice up your project, Motion Array has everything that you need for your creative projects in one convenient place. And one of the things that I love so much about Motion Array is they're constantly bringing new assets as well to help us as creators. And they recently teamed up with UK-based animator Matt Voice to create the Illustrative Kinetic Typography Pack. And this is just one of the many excellent title screens that you can use in your videos that Motion Array gives us. Now, these are exclusive to Motion Array, and they're some of the highest quality motion graphics that I've seen online. Plus, like all of Motion Array's assets, they are super easy to use. Motion Array also recently launched 50 new plugins for all major video editing softwares to help power your edits, with many more on the way as well. So click the first link in the description to check out Matt Voice's new Kinetic Typography Pack, as well as the thousands of other royalty-free digital assets that Motion Array has available. That link will also give you 2 months free. Thank you so much, Motion Array, for sponsoring this video and supporting the channel. Now let's get back to it. Now, the next thing on the list is something that every photographer needs. And some people might tell you that you don't, but if you are looking to take photography seriously, then you definitely do need one of these, and that is a computer. Now, me particularly, I use laptops, and I have the Apple M1 Max laptop. This thing is absolutely incredible. I've had it for a few years now. Super fast, it's portable, and it just works really great. I would say Apple is probably the gold standard when it comes to photography or the creative world in general. And if you are going to pick up a laptop specifically for photography, or any Mac for that matter, it doesn't have to be a laptop, I would definitely recommend the Apple Silicon chips. So anything M1, M2, M3, or M4, which is coming out pretty soon here, those are going to be really, really fast. And ideally, you pick up either the Pro or the Max models. So they do have the base M1, M2, M3 chips. Those are going to be great. I did use those for a while, but the power that you get from the Pro and Max chips is massive. So I would definitely recommend picking up either an M1 Pro or M1 Max, M2 Pro or M1 Max. The list goes on. These are going to be really good for editing your photos, editing videos, and they're going to be future proof as well. Now, next up on the list might seem super simple, but to be honest, a lot of people forget this, and that is a good cleaning kits. Now, there's a ton of different cleaning kits available online that you can use to clean your cameras. My particular favorite is the Zeiss kit. I think I've bought it like 3 times over the last few years because I always end up losing one piece of the kit, or I lose some of the wipes or something like that. Now, these days, I just keep all of my cleaning kit in one of these little pouches. This is just a cheap pouch that I bought from Eiger, an Indonesian brand in Bali. And inside this kit, I have a blower to blow off dust. I have a microfiber cloth, and to be honest, I have these everywhere. I have them in all of my bags so I can easily pull it out, wipe off my lens, clean it. It's always ready to go. I have like 20 of these probably. Another thing that I carry are just these different brushes. This is just going to help you clean dust off of your lens. I don't know why I have 2. I think this one's a little bit finer, so I use this more. But these are really cheap. You can pick these up anywhere. They will come with a kit that you buy to clean your camera. But the thing that I do love the most about the Zeiss cleaning kit is it comes with these lens wipes. These things are absolutely incredible. All you have to do is pull them out, wipe it. It's wet, so you can clean a lot of gunk off of your lenses. And that's pretty much all that is in my kit. Now, at home, I do have sensor cleaner. These are absolutely amazing. If you do get dirt on your sensor, especially if you're using a mirrorless camera where you can see that sensor, you might get dust on it from time to time, and you need to be very careful with that sensor. Typically, you would use the blower to blow that dust off, but it doesn't always work. And that's the situation where you would use a sensor cleaner. So make sure you pick up one of those as well. But a cleaning kit is absolutely essential for us as photographers. Now, next up on the list is extra batteries for your camera. I would never recommend just having one battery for your camera. At least pick up 2. For my Sony, I think I have 4. And that covers me if I'm going out on an expedition and I'm going to be shooting all day or a couple days. Having multiple batteries will save your ass. So you never want to run out of battery when you're out shooting. So I would definitely recommend multiple batteries, as well as a charging brick or whatever you call one of these to charge multiple batteries at one time. This thing is absolutely essential for me. I have 2 of these, so I can charge all 4 of my Sony batteries. And this was super cheap. I think I picked it up on Amazon for probably 15 or 20 bucks. You can find these for any major camera brand, and they really are essential for us as photographers. So definitely recommend extra batteries and a charging hub for multiple batteries. And speaking of power, I would also recommend a power bank as well. This is one that I picked up from Inui on Amazon. This thing's awesome. It has fast charging. I can use it to charge my cameras, my phone, my AirPods, my Apple Watch. This thing is essential. I use it every single day, especially when I'm traveling or I'm out shooting. It's not too heavy. This is the 20,000 milliamp battery one, which I think works the best for me. It can charge my phone like 5 or 6 times, can charge all of my camera batteries, and it just works really well. So I would definitely recommend picking up a power bank as well. Now we're almost nearing the end of this list, and another thing that I personally think beginner photographers need is a tripod. Now I'm not going to show you mine because I'm filming on it now, but I will put some B-roll in here. I use the Ulanzi something tripod. I'll put the name down there. I always forget what it's called, but you don't need any kind of fancy tripod. You don't need this one. You don't need the Peak Design tripod. You just need a cheap little tripod that you can take with you outside and experiment with and make mistakes with. And the reason why tripods are so important is because they allow us to experiment with slower shutter speeds, long exposures. We can get really creative with that. And I think that is a rite of passage for every photographer when they're starting out, is to go out, experiment with shooting at night, experiment with slower shutter speeds, and just engage creatively with the photography process. One of my fondest memories of when I was starting out as a photographer is going outside and shooting long exposures of my house. And I thought that noise grain was affected by the ambient noise around the camera while that shutter was open. So what I would do is I would hit the long exposure button for like a 30-second exposure, and I would hold my breath because I didn't want to make any noise around the camera because I didn't want to have digital noise in the photo. Obviously, that's not true. That's a myth. Making noise around your camera when the shutter is open is not going to impact the outcome of your image. But when I look back and I think about when I was starting out as a photographer and making mistakes with a tripod, there was always a tripod there. So I would recommend getting one. Like I said before, any cheap tripod is going to be fine. You can always upgrade that later on. And to be honest, I don't use a tripod all that much these days, only for filming. For photography, I like to be a kind of running gun setup. So if you are going to be like that too, you don't necessarily need one, but I do think it's part of the learning experience for us as photographers. Now, I know this list might seem like it's super long, but in reality, these are only the most essential things that you need as a photographer when you're just starting out, as well as when you're advanced. And yeah, when you grow as a photographer, you get better, you go on photography trips, you might pick up more robust pieces of gear, you might pick up little knickknacks that are gonna help make your job easier. But when you're just starting out, these are the most essential things that you need in your camera bag, and you will keep these things with you all the way until the end. And you might be thinking to yourself, Sean, there's a lot missing from this list. What about filters? What about step-up rings? What about lens hoods? There's a lot of different things that I could have included on this list, but they're really not important when you're starting out as a photographer. These are things that you can pick up later. The most important thing is just having the essentials in your kit that are going to allow you to go out, experiment, learn, make mistakes, and become a better photographer. You can always pick up those more fancy features later on in the future. But that is it for this video, guys. Thank you so much for watching. Once again, make sure to check out my free gear guide via the link in the description. I will catch you guys again very soon, and I hope you have a great day.